Larry Summers to step back from public comments. This involves Jeffrey Epstein. Larry Summers, former Harvard University president, he was former secretary of something having to do with economics during the Clinton administration. He is somebody who is like CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, Morning Joe. Morning Joe fucking loves Larry Summers. Anytime there's a question about economics or job data or inflation or the stock market or whatever, like Larry Summers is their go-to guy. Turns out, I know you're going to be shocked by this, turns out that Larry Summers is just another old white guy with money, which in this day and age, I feel like we've shifted to, there's now a presumption. Like, it used to be, people were like, now it's just like, yeah, there's a presumption. It shifts the burden of proof. Presumptions shift the burden of proof from the person who's saying, I don't know about that guy. They have the burden of proof. Now we've seen so much about these fucking guys that has shifted. And now there's a presumption that they're X, Y, and Z, and it shifts the burden of proof to them to disprove that. And I feel safe and secure in saying now, in November of 2025, that if you're an old white guy with money, the presumption, the starting point now, is that you're a pervert. If you're an old white guy with money, the presumption now for you to rebut is that you're a pervert. Case in point, Larry Summers, this is from the Wall Street Journal, former Harvard University president Larry Summers said he would be stepping back from public comments after receiving criticism over his correspondence with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. So, okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Larry Summers' correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein lasted into the year 2019, the year that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested for a second time and then lost a battle with a bedsheet in his prison cell and died. Jeffrey Epstein had a shit ton of money that nobody is quite sure where it came from, Les Wexner, and made lots of massive donations to educational institutions like Harvard. Larry Summers was friends with Jeffrey Epstein for longer than Donald Trump was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, for like 25 years. And into 2019, Larry Summers was having events at Harvard with Jeffrey Epstein, surrounded by, that's right, co-eds. Said Larry Summers, I am deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain they have caused. I take full responsibility for my misguided, that word is doing a lot of work in that sentence. I take full responsibility for my misguided decision to continue communicating with Mr. Epstein, who had been convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution 12 years before their communications came to an end. Larry Summers knew exactly who and what Jeffrey Epstein was and decided, proactively made a choice and decided that pedophiles were not a deal breaker for Larry Summers or Harvard if they had shit tons of money that they were willing to give to Harvard. I'm going to read those last two sentences from the statement that Larry Summers put out today, but I'm going to add 4 words at the beginning. And this is a reference to the emails that were released last week by Congressional Republicans. Democrats released 3 emails. Republicans on the Oversight Committee released 20,000 pages of emails. So let's go through that statement again. I'm going to add what he left off at the beginning. Because I got caught, I am deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain they have caused. Because I got caught, I take full responsibility for my misguided decision to continue communicating with Mr. Epstein because I knew that he was a child rapist, but he had a literal fuck ton of money and made massive donations to Harvard, and I got to hang out with him around co-eds. In those emails between Larry Summers and Jeffrey Epstein, it is readily apparent that Larry Summers, over the course of his adult life, being a white man with money and some power, which the presumption means that he was a pervert, he's in his 70s. He was president of Harvard 20 years ago, which would put him in his 50s. And when he was president of Harvard, he was hitting on students, allegedly, and couldn't understand why he wasn't getting any traction. He had relationship problems for which he sought the advice of convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And if you've ever seen a photograph of Larry Summers, spelled Summers, you should Google it and click on images, and you will rapidly understand why Larry Summers was not getting any traction with women who were younger than him. These guys are fucking gross. And again, the presumption is now that if you are an old white guy with money and access to any kind of power whatsoever, the presumption, the starting place for you to rebut is that you're a pervert, that you are a sex pest. Andrew Cuomo, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates. The starting point, the presumption, is that you're a pervert. Because they all are. They all are.